What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys because it is time to talk about the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Champion, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game experience for 2024. This is my part 3 and the final part of what I have already put together for the Yu-Gi-Oh! For the Yu-Gi-Oh! Experience of 2024. Um, with everything that I've already said in most of the other games, I definitely think you guys are going to have your opinions on my retrospectives, and that's perfectly fine. But this is my personal retrospectives of the card game and the things that were going on, and I wanted to do part 3 because there was a lot of things that happened um, throughout this year that I wasn't able to talk about in the beginning. And hopefully you guys do see those. If you guys want to see them, you can always wait to the end of the video where I have the previous playlist and previous video, the playlist in the previous video, where you guys can check those out, which are part 1 and part 2 um, of me talking about the first half of the year and the second half of the year and what impacts the sets that they had on me, and a lot of things and changes that I definitely seen throughout. They are going to be lengthy, so just be warned of that. And no, I'm not doing any timestamps, but if someone wants to casually do some timestamps for me, go right ahead. Anyway, we're going to start off the first part of this video to talk about one of my favorite announcements for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, and that was the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection. So, for those who don't know, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection is an amalgamation of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games that are on the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. Now, this does not include any of the games that were on the PlayStation, as PlayStation could potentially be getting their own collection, which would be really sick because it would not only include Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories and Yu-Gi-Oh! I say Yu-Gi-Oh! Worldwide Edition, Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories and Yu-Gi-Oh! What was it? What was that one game? Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses. There we go. And the other one, funny enough, was the Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monster game, which was based off of the Capsule Monsters game that was in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. Now, some of you are probably questioning, wait, wasn't that like its own mini-series? No. There was actually, you're not wrong, but there's actually one that inspired that one that came back further on, in which it talked about was actually played in season 0, the season that was never translated here in America because it was very, very dark. So, yeah, that will be a game that will be included, as well as all the Game Boy Advance games. I do believe that, the Tag Force games would be the next wave of things too, considering the fact that Tag Force Arc V Special was never released internationally. Um, which is also funny and ironic because the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship games stopped after the Dual Carnival, which was supposed to be named Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2023, because there was no 2012 game. Um, for whatever reason, Konami still has not acknowledged the reasons. I don't think anyone ever asked, so. But yeah, it wasn't their biggest seller, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it's the only Yu-Gi-Oh video game that was on the 3DS. Yeah, and it was an early 3DS game at that. So no, it wasn't an early 3DS. It was a late three. No, it was a starting point 3DS. Because it definitely had some additions to it, but just the amount of things that are going to be in this collection are part of the reason why I did videos on it. So for those who want to know what games are going to be on it, um, in Japan there were the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monster series is what they're known as, but they did not have their translated names until they came here. And funny enough, the GBA games, only one of the GBA games came to America, and that was Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Dark Duel Stories, which in Japan is known as Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 3 Dark Duel Stories. Monsters. It's the third installation of the game that was brung to the TCG, only because of the fact that they were getting ready to start off the. They were already starting in the series. They wanted some of the iconic cards to be seen, and they wanted to push the video games as soon as possible. So while the Game Boy Color was already kind of out at that point, and the Game Boy Advance was coming in, they started production on the Game Boy Advance games. Which our first Game Boy Advance game is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul. Then it was Yu-Gi-Oh! Stairway to the Destiny Duel. Then, well, Worldwide Edition Stairway to the Destiny Duel. Then it was Yu-Gi-Oh! World Tournament Championship 2004. Then Seven Trials of Glory, Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship Tournament 2005. And so on and so forth. The crazy thing about it is our last Game Boy Advance game was Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters GX. Duel Academy. And that was the one that brought in all of the guys the uh, from the GX anime into the fray. So now, the proper list, because you guys are going to ask me, okay, you talked about the proper list. So, the proper list is Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 2, Dark Duel Stories, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 3, Dark Duel Stories, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 4, Battle of the Great Duelist, Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters, which was the Castle Monsters iteration from the Zero anime, and those are all the Game Boy Color games. Now, moving from the Game Boy Color, then we're going to go into the Game Boy Advance with Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, The Eternal Duelist Soul, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Expert 2. Now, why Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 6 Expert 2. And why I say that is because that's the official title for um, in Japan, because this game was broken up into two. Now, I have actually played the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Expert. Was it Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 5 Expert 1? Which is basically what ended up being our Eternal Duelist Soul, but it had a couple of things that needed to be fixed, so they re-released the game again with the additions that were given for Eternal Duelist Soul. Although I like what the original one did better, I'm not gonna lie. I talked about this in my video for Eternal Duelist Soul. And then there's Yu-Gi-Oh! World Wide Edition, Stairway to the Destiny Duel, which was known as Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Expert 7. Or Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Expert 7. Sorry, I get the Japanese names of these games mixed up. But I'll just use the American version names anyway. So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Worldwide Edition, Stairway to the Destiny Duels. Then, canonically, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Repeat of Destruction, which is funny because they all came out in the same year as Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2004. Then Yu-Gi-Oh! Seven Trials of Glory, Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2005. And then Yu-Gi-Oh! Dungeon Dice Monsters. But I believe Dungeon Dice Monsters came out before World Championship 2005. And it uses entirely the entire cast from the manga Zero and so forth, even into the ghouls and stuff, because the ghouls were just then making their appearance as well. Now, as you heard from me, I included not all of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games, and that's simply because two of the GBA games will not be included in this collection. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one more. Yu-Gi-Oh! Destiny Board Travelers, because that's how bad of a game it was that I can't believe they're actually including it. But if they want to include it, go right ahead. But as you can see, yeah, majority of the games that include the official card game, as well as the games that were going to be the predecessor of what the card game itself was going to be, are introduced into the card game via this. Now, I was honestly very excited to see all of this in the lineup, because I did not expect them to drop all of these games. And yes, the games that are in Japanese will be dropped in Japanese. That's right. The games will be dropped in Japanese. I didn't know that. Um, upon the release and then talking about it, and they're like, yeah, no, we're going to give you guys the Japanese versions too. It's funny that that's happening because if you guys do note that the Starfy, the little Star Soldier guy, and his games are in Japanese, but they gave it to us via the Virtual Console. Um, if you pay for additional stuff on Nintendo. By the way, Nintendo is getting the Early Days Collection, and so is Steam. So I expect many people to mod the game on Steam, and I know for a fact people are going to try to find ways to move those mods onto the Switch. Now, from what we've also been told, there are going to be differences between the promotional packs. The promotional pack in Japan is going to have one, two, three, four monsters, while we're getting Harpies, Feather Dusters internationally. We're going to get prismatic versions of these cards. So in total, Japanese physical versions are going to have 4 cards. International versions are going to have 2. Will I be getting these Feather Dusters? I'm questioning it. But for the most part, I'm really not too concerned about them. I just know that, look, I had enough Harpies Feather Dusters. I don't need more. Just give me regular Harpie support or some new Harpie cards, and I'll be alright with it. So, anyway, in addition to those, they said the digital handbook, I mean, they're going to have handbooks, digital handbooks and stuff. They're gonna have cheat codes. They're gonna have all these additional things where you can unlock all the opponents with ease, and you don't have to do too much at that point with everything going on. So that's actually a pretty good addition. For me personally, I cannot wait for this because even though I emulate most of these games as it is, I'm just going to pick up the collection anyway, just to pick up the collection, because why not? It's going to be $50, estimated US total. So I don't know how much it is Canadian or Euro, but the estimate in total is going to be 50. And funny enough, it was Nintendo that said, "All right, you're gonna be putting it up for pre-order. Let's just put all the numbers, and let's put all the games up." So that's how everything got, because back in November there was a leak of the games, initial content of all the games that were in it. We did already have the drops that Konami was dropping every couple of weeks via their retro page on Facebook, and I think they made a Twitter account as well for the retro stuff. But they were not holding back any hints, and they were showing off some gameplay as well, which is awesome. The most recent live stream event in Japan showed off some gameplay of Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 3 Dark Duel Story, so it was nice to see that. Now, in addition to all of that being released, we did get an official release date, which is February 25th of 2025, where you can pick up the game. If you want to pick it up physical, you're more than welcome to. Excuse me. But, like I said, I'm debating if I want to pick it up physical, and if I pick it up physical, I got a 1 in 2 chance of getting one of the variations of Harpie's Feather Duster and Prismatic Secret, which I don't really care, because it's Harpie's Feather Duster. I have plenty of Harpie's Feather Dusters as it is. Excuse me. In conjunction to that, what's up next is I'm very excited for these games releases. This is going to be where people who've never played the video games will get a chance to play the video games and experience a part of my childhood that I got to, with all the freebies attached to it and all the cheat codes and stuff you can have to it as well. So you lucky bastards, you get to do things that I couldn't, but I also get to use them as well. And I wouldn't actually be, and I'm going to say this now, I wouldn't be surprised if Konami tries to make some more money off of it, or more from entries and stuff, but they're like, hey, if you have it on your Switch and stuff, you can bring it in and you can play it in our tournaments and stuff. And I'll really get some kickers. So I really want to see what people's decks will be built at that point. Because hell, Master Duel's already doing enough as it is. Then what else was it that we can go through with that? Because I've already talked about Early Days Collection. It's going to be a really great seller. Don't be surprised if PlayStation then screens they want the Early Days Collection, and then you'll get like all the Tac Force stuff, and then Nintendo goes back and say, okay, it's time to fix up the new Switch. When Switch 2 comes out, all right, let's see if we can put the DS games on here and really get this ball rolling. So yeah, that's pretty much in terms of all of that information. So now let's go on into the next part of it, which is what was going on with the tournaments. And as many of you know, I did a video to talk about tournaments because a lot of the pro players were not happy this year and expressed how they felt about Daddy Konami getting them really shitty presents when they win these. No, really shitty awards. You know, we say presents too when they win these tournaments. Now, the only regulation that I've always heard was that the prize pool is very shitty. I am one of those people who, while being a casual, I really didn't care about prize pools because I was always confined to doing just extremely well at locals. Um, but when I started, internet wise, and everybody's following things on the internet, there was a major conversation about this that was dropped by Jessica Robinson. If you guys don't know who Jessica Robinson is, Jessica was the 2023 European champion. And Jessica expressed how the trip to Worlds was not what she expected. And she was very much unhappy with how things panned out. Many other players watched her video and even expressed their own distaste for how Konami treats their, higher end players, especially those who top major events. Because the prize pool is shit. I just get that out there now. Prize pools are shit. They are deck boxes, couple of packs of the sleeves, some dice, and a mat, and whatever of the most recent core set or major pack is at that time. And Jessica said, hell, she top 8 at Worlds, and it wasn't really much of a compensation for how much she put into it because of the amount of hours that she had to play, the amount of hours that she had to, do all of this and that, booking her hotel, getting her, booking her hotel, the money she had to save and make to get her, travel to and back from Japan, where Worlds was for 2023. Then, what else was it that was attached to? Oh, then she talked about, the cars and everything, and it was just a hot mess of things. She said they had them in like that little basement room that we saw pictures of online. Then the top 8, I believe, were the ones that got to battle. The top 16 got to battle because it was the top 20. So the top 32 battled it in the room. Then the top 16 got to do all the pretty stuff on the main stage. This is kind of similar to what happened in Seattle this year, where they didn't even open it up to the public. You know what they did for the public? They just cut the public out and said no public events or nothing like that. We're just going to do regular stuff for the regular event. That's literally what it was. So you can ask Hani on his channel how he got that. He'll probably charge you like $50 to give you all this extra information. So look, I'm sorry, I would never pay Yu-Gi-Oh players, let alone somebody $50 just to teach me how to play Yu-Gi-Oh. Internet is free. Anyway, so there was a lot of discrepancies about it. There was a lot of call outs to Konami, and you would think Konami would do better. Nope. Now they've said, from what Jessica's recent video was, just a few days ago, about her still quitting Yu-Gi-Oh in terms of being a competitive player. She said she still goes to locals. She's actually started playing other card games, and these other card games have better prize pools, which we've always heard, but no one's actually said, let me go from Yu-Gi-Oh into it. And now a lot of people have over the last decade, and they're like, oh no, yeah, no, I quit Yu-Gi-Oh and I'm very excited to play a card game that actually appreciates me being a player of that card game, no matter what age I am. Because, at a point in time, Konami has to stop hiding behind the whole, you know, glass house that they've created with stones that get thrown of, this is a children's card game, but majority of your top ranked players are like above 20. So, you can cut that crap. And even your duelist league at a point in time, look, most of them are fading out as well. Because, look, this game is getting way too damn expensive. And that was part of the reason why many of them said they were going to other card games, because it's just more affordable to play these other card games without having the hustle and bustle through situations. And, I don't blame a lot of players for saying I'm going to do a change up. I know a lot of people who said they quit Yu-Gi-Oh! And rather play in the retro format because it's just more easier. But then even with the rarity collections reprinting a lot of this stuff, it's very difficult to get things because Konami's only printing certain things in certain rarities. I'm looking at the videos that I just looked at when I talked about that situation for Quarter Century Bonanza and Quarter Century Stampede. Now, in addition to these additional things that are going on, I definitely wanted to also bring to mention my experiences with some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff that happened this year as well. That actually goes into conjunction. So, Yu-Gi-Oh regionals for Oakland, California, was at the end of September of this year. I actually attended and participated. So let's talk about this hassle because I know a lot of other people told me this is something they experienced as well, which was, man, um, what was it that we experienced? Oh, so the lead up into registering for the event, you can pre-register online, and then at the event you just show your stuff on your phone, um, and then they'll send you in to getting your packs. This took an additional 30 minutes because the venue that we were in, the Wi-Fi had issues. All right. And trust me, I lived in Oakland enough to know the Marriott has a lot of problems. So it didn't shock me there. Then, what was it? The retro format. It was only Edison. It's like, all right. So I'm not going to quit out for Edison. Then our turnout was almost 300 participants in the main event. And by time round 5 came, we were down to almost half. Yeah. And it was basically a lineup of things that were price pool sucked. No one wanted to play in the format that was consistent of what was already being dealt with as it is, which I want to be very honest with you. 90% of the regionals was Fiend Smith variants. How should I know? Because I faced about 8 of those. And the only one I didn't face that was a Fiend Smith variant was Gimme Ghoul Stun Lock. It was a very stupid deck, I'm not gonna lie. And I was already annoyed at that point with how that faction. So it's like, oh great, now I have to deal with this. So, in conjunction to what that was, me staying through the rounds till the final round and going through that, I didn't get but maybe one win and it was a bye. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, no. I realized I'm not a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player, and maybe I should have just came to play an Edison for me like everybody else was. That I did get to see a lot of people, but the vibe at this event was very much of I'm drained from this card game with us 30 something, or us approaching 30 somethings, and it was just like, yeah, it was a definite shocker. I don't know if they're going to do another event for Yu-Gi-Oh in Oakland, but I definitely would go to the next one if it ever gets announced. Probably then I'll just put my efforts into playing Edison and then do my videos and stuff for them. But it was a definite culture shock. I didn't go to Sacramento's YCS for obvious reasons. For those who don't know, I didn't get a ride. I tried to look for a ride, but there was just no ride available. And I said, all right, well, fuck it. When it comes to Oakland, I'll just go to the one in Oakland. And I did go to the one in Oakland, and despite the fact that I wasn't extremely happy, I did at least try to have some fun. I didn't pick up as many cars as I wanted to, though. But if you go and you watch my videos about, how things were going on, I explained just how much of it I went through, and just like, all right, it just was one of those it is what it is situation. So, yeah. But that was pretty much just the bulk of things that I wanted to talk about in the video. Even though it may not be what everybody else, discusses, just let it be a discussion of what you want to experience, which is, on your own accord. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't want to go any further because I'm probably going to lag out. I'm already tired and ready to go to sleep. So, with that in told, you guys, I hope you enjoy the content of this retrospective. This is my last retrospective for the year. I've already done my Digimon retrospective. Do I want to do a YouTube one? Probably, probably not. But I'll think about it in a couple of hours. But thank you guys so much for lashing out through this video. It's going to be a very long upload, but I appreciate you guys being here for it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel as it helps me out tremendously. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section below. I hope 2025 is a little more diligent and decent than what 2024 had to offer. I'll have some more content and stuff up sooner or later. Um, but yeah, thanks guys for watching and helping out and keeping things together for me. With that in told, thanks. You guys, hit the notification bell to be informed of when I upload more of my content. Socials are in the description box below, and there's always the previous videos and stuff at the end. So thanks everybody for watching, and HPJ signing out. Take care.